First of all, we'll start by unwinding and relaxing. All of us have a long way to go learning how to relax, learning how to relax. So for everybody, this is the kind of the day that is kind of the end of the day or towards the end of the day. And being a weekday, it's kind of, being probably a bit busy. The mind could be a little bit restless, not necessarily the most peaceful, settled time. But, and also even you can hear, like if your windows are open, like it is at the Vihara, it's quite a beautiful day at the Vihara. I'm going to advertise a little bit for people because it's truly, really special. There's a lot of beautiful energy here. So yeah, here we can also hear all the birds. They are busy taking their last meal for the day. And all of us are also a little, probably a bit high energy or low energy. I don't know. It's lots going on this time of the day. Nevertheless, it's really important still learning how to unwind and become still as much as possible. Because if you wait for the conditions to become perfect, when your body is not aching, when your mind is peaceful, when you are at a place that is completely quiet and you have all the nice instructions, all of those things, if we wait for that beautiful moment to happen, we may never end up sitting for meditation. So we have to learn to meditate at any time of the day, in any whichever way our body and mind is. Why is that? Because, our death can happen anytime, isn't it? This could be our last sit together. It can happen. Our bodies are so fragile, we all know this. Yeah, anything can happen. Any day it can happen. Therefore, it is really important to learn how to become peaceful, to relax and uplift our mind. And it can be done instead of saying, it's too late, I'm too tired, I'm too sick, it's too cold, it's too hot, let me get out of my way, all these busy things. Instead of doing all of that, it is really important to prioritize what is important in life. Yeah. So this is important. It is really important to have a bit of time for ourselves to just relax, to enjoy, to become peaceful. Otherwise, what's the point in life? Running around like a rat race, getting so busy, getting so tired. What are we trying to achieve? Why are we doing all of these things? All of these things are meant to bring us happiness, but we only become weary if we never stop. So it is really, really important to learn how to stop. And I'm also going to encourage all the people who live close by to the vihara, at least within like half an hour's drive. Make the effort to be here. Drop things at home. Forget about having to do all these things. Have a break. It's actually good. Maybe get some Uber Eats for tonight. I'm not advertising, but there are many ways. And have a break for yourself. Once you leave your busy place, this is the time. Heated arguments can happen at a time. Why? Because people are tired, people are hungry, people are busy, right? This is that kind of time at many households. So you have an excuse on Thursday evenings. You can drop all of that. Your family will be fine without you for a little while, just for about an hour. Have a break, yeah? And come and sit peaceful place with like-minded people and have a bit of rest. for your body and for your mind. And of course, for those of you who live far away, at least take that time in your space, in your, right now in your seat. You can perceive or imagine yourself to be inside a little bubble. Yeah, a little bubble where you are going to become a bit rested. So that's what we are going to do. So we are going to just really face with courage, how am I feeling right now? So you can play with your perceptions and imagine your body and your mind as if it is your best friend's body and mind. If it was your best friend who is tired, who is a bit agitated, or maybe who is a bit unwell, whose body is feeling a bit yucky, if you knew that that was the case with your best friend when you're with them, what is your response? Your response is, it's okay. I care about you. I have affection for you. I allow you to be the way you are. I allow you to rest. It's okay. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to entertain me. Just be yourself and I accept you for who you are. That's all right. So build up that kind of attitude towards your body if it is not in its best shape, towards your mind if it is not in its best shape. Never mind. I allow my body. I allow my body to mind to be the way it is. So often we try to run away from our body and mind. But right now, we are not going to run away. Because if it was your best friend, you don't run away from your best friend. You want to be there to care for them, to show them affection. So have that kind of attitude towards your body and towards your mind and be very present, very alert to just allow it to be and care for it. Take some time, be creative, and become very caring to your body and to your mind. For the next little while, you have nothing to do, nowhere to go, just happy to be here. And allow yourself to relax deeply into this moment right here. Continue to bring up that care and affection towards your tired and yucky feeling body and mind. It's okay. I love you. I invite you to bring up a beautiful smile, a very affectionate smile, like the kind that you would give to your best friend if you want to show them your affection and care. And see what it does to your own mind when you smile with a bit of affection and care. A relaxed body is delightful. A relaxed mind is also delightful. See whether you can notice some delight coming up as you're caring for your body and mind and allowing it to rest and relax. And you will notice as you relax, your mindfulness starts to build up. And you may notice your breath coming in and going out very naturally. So you can pay attention to that breath naturally coming in and naturally going out. And you can allow yourself to relax even deeper by being with your breath. Instead of giving attention to the various sounds that we can hear, you can bring attention either to your breath or to the sensations in your body and ground yourself to here and now. As we are coming close to the end of this very short meditation. Just see how you feel right now. From the time set for this session and having rested and relaxed for a little while, how is your body feeling? How is your mind? You can take 3 deep breaths slowly. And at the end of the last one, you can come out of meditation and get ready for the Dhamma talk. Okay. So thank you all for coming. And I'm going to say hello to the people online. Hello. Okay. So anybody have any questions or any suggestion for a talk? Okay, so there was one request on the WhatsApp, and that was one of Ajahn Brahm's quotes. This is how it goes. It goes, "No need to seek revenge because karma will get the bastards anyway." So, how do you feel? Would you like that, or do you want a different topic? It's your chance now. Okay, is that all right? Okay, let's see. The thing is, now Ajahn Brahm's my teacher. It's not really good to disagree, right, with your teacher. Traditionally, we don't do that. But I have a little bit of an issue with this statement. I don't know about you. I have a little bit, there is some truth to this, but I have a little bit of an issue with the way it is being said. So I may disappoint the person who suggested this, but I will still speak to it, my approach.
Sadhu,
Right.
sadhu, sadhu. Ayya Karunika is very good. I also have something to say. Yes, yes.
Good. So, so, so the thing is, what I want to bring up, this is the kind of natural reaction we get, right? When somebody does something that is hurtful for ourselves or hurtful for other people, but we think that this is not good, not appropriate, they shouldn't do like this. When we are facing such a thing, we get quite reactive, and our reaction is, the worst one is we want to take revenge. So of course what this is saying is, try not to take revenge. Karma will take care of itself. So you don't have to intervene, because what happens is when we try to take revenge, what happens to us? We have done something unskillful by body, speech, and mind. So we have to reap the karmic consequence of our action. Yeah. So therefore, it is important that that not to get there. So it's all right, karma will do, karma may not do, depends on how the person will follow it through. But the important thing is to understand and develop even a higher mind state, because when you say the karma will get the bastards anyway, it has still a bit of ill will and negativity, isn't it? Because you sort of want the other person to suffer.
Revenge.
Yeah, we want the other person to one way or the other, even if you're not doing it, you still want the person to somehow have to, be punished. But if you really understand quite deeply the right view, the Buddhist understanding of non-self, then we are able to forgive these people. And sometimes this person is yourself, isn't it? Sometimes it is you who have done this thing that is not really helpful, that has been difficult. And it is you are suffering now. And we try to punish ourselves as well, because after we see, oh, I've done terrible thing, now I need to punish. Or you have regrets and remorse. But if you are a good Buddhist, if you know the Buddha's teachings really well, you know there is no room for regrets, remorse, and punishment in the Buddha's teaching. Yeah, it's quite different to many other religions. This is where Buddhism is a bit different. This is the right view that is very different, right? It doesn't mean that you allow yourself to do and live in a heedless way and take no responsibility. Not at all. The idea of karma, really, you take responsibility, but not in a way that you are going to really punish yourself or punish another person, or even wish punishment or difficulty for the person. Because when you understand this idea of conditionality, how conditioned we are in our lives, in our journey in samsara, then punishment has no place in that thought. Because who we are is what has happened to us this life and also past lives, right? So our actions by body, speech, and mind are conditioned. They're conditionally arisen. Yeah. Why do you do certain things? Our habits, ways of doing things, ways of speech, ways of thinking is conditioned. You can reflect that, and this is a very important reflection. And our worldview is conditioned to us, depending on which culture, which background, where you grew up, what you've been taught. This all conditions. And sometimes the problem is our worldview doesn't fit with somebody else's worldview. And that is where the problem is. But this is our conditioning. And of course, some people's worldview, like if you belong to a mafia family, it's going to be harmful for many people, right? But at the same time, that person, if you're born or associate with such a family, they're heavily conditioned by their surroundings and what happens to them. We are trapped. The thing is, we don't see how trapped we are. That's the thing. So we think that we are in control in a way. We do have some control. I will speak to that. But by and large, if we don't have mindfulness, right? If we are not having that established mindfulness, that awareness, we are really driven by these forces of condition. And this is why, have you had days where you felt like you did things and you don't know why you did things? You said things and it's as if your mouth spoke in spite of you. So this is where you can see the built up momentum taking its course. Sometimes if you are a meditator, your eyes are a bit open. That means you have some mindfulness. Yet you can't stop yourself. Has that happened to you? That even to that degree, even you have awareness, still you can't stop the momentum. And that conditioning is so strong that you carry forward something unskillful. It happens. Skillful things also happen. So you can see how heavily conditioned we are. So this is where, and this is where our free will get challenged. Now, did you all decide today to join this session, either in person or in Zoom, with your own free will? or was it conditioned? I put a lot of conditioning in the WhatsApp group, encouraging how wonderful it is to be here. You know, can you see why you do these things? Why the whole world isn't here to listen to this talk? Why only few of you? Why my neighbors aren't here? Yeah, conditioning. Yeah, you've heard, you take up a view, you probably think this is good to learn some teachings or do a bit of meditation together, spend some time with good, like-minded people. See how the conditioning happens? Yeah, things you hear, things you see, after you have mentally inspected it, if you get inspiration, if you see a benefit, you take it up as a view, and then it conditions you. Your actions are conditioned like that. So your good actions as well as bad actions. So those people who did these things that are difficult, they really didn't have a choice. Really, it was conditioned. Our choice, we have a choice, but our choice is conditioned. That's the problem. So if we have mindfulness, then we can bias towards good because we have conditioning to do both good and bad. We have conditioning right now to kill somebody or save somebody. But depends on the strong habit and how much mindfulness we have will decide what we will do at the time. So any time when people do unskillful things, hurtful things, we can be sure that their mindfulness is low. So what can you do? You can't do much about it. Yeah. It is called, like when the defilements are especially prevalent in your mind, the Buddha says, Achakku karana, andhakarana, panya nirodhika in Pali. So I'm not just saying my things. This is exactly, I'm quoting the Buddha in Pali. Achakku karana means it's as if you're somebody without eyes. Chakku is eye. Andhakarana means you are going in the dark. Panya nirodhika, your wisdom has departed. So this is how it is when we are triggered by emotions, when we triggered and our defilements are prevalent, we can't help ourselves. Yeah, our mindfulness is low. So then our habits will take charge. Yeah, and that's when we do things. So how can we wish for punishment for somebody or to ourselves? Isn't it? We can't really wish for punishment. Punishment isn't going to do anything. That doesn't mean that you allow people to walk all over you, abuse you, do damage to you, do harm to you. Not at all, right? You actually put your boundaries, take care of yourself, do what you need to do to protect yourself, and you can help them as well. But that's a different thing to wish them harm, right? Because when you say the karma will take care of the bastards anyway, or if you want to actually actively engage in taking revenge, that's actually really a bad attitude. But rather, in this way, you understand why they do. So you don't have that ill will coming up in your heart, because this is the important thing. When bad things are happening in your life, when people are doing hurtful, harmful things, you can still maintain a cool heart with wisdom, with right view. So this is the important part. But that doesn't mean that you allow them to do things. You take action. Actually, it's a kind thing to do. Stop somebody from doing harm. It's important to do that. But not with ill will, not with negativity, not with a heart of taking revenge. It's quite very different approach. And this is the Buddha's approach. Yeah. Of course, if somebody has done something unskillful, they will have to reap the karmic consequences. So when you actually realize that, what is your response? When you realize that they were in the dark, their mindfulness was low, they probably didn't even have right view, they didn't have all of these things, yet their intentional actions have consequences. You can see how trapped we all are. What is your natural response? Compassion, isn't it? You feel a deep sense of compassion coming up. My goodness, being in samsara, it's not so easy. We are trapped in a body, trapped in our views, in our perceptions, that's being trapped in our mind. And as a result, we do all these things, other people do all of these things, yet we have karmic consequences. So how do you reduce our karmic consequence? Or how do you have a good attitude about when the effects are coming? And how do you sort of make best use of this? Because we are here until we are fully enlightened. That means our minds are purified from the defilements. We will do, everybody will do unskillful things, stupid things. It's not within our power, really, until, we have really strong mindfulness. So, but the important thing is bring up this right view again and again into mind. So at least based on those things, you don't create even more negativity and more difficulty by bringing up ill will, because ill will is really bad. Yeah, it's really dangerous, really harmful for oneself. So it is like because of other people, at the cost of other people, we are reaping a lot more difficulty, right? It is because somebody else is doing this difficult thing and you build up anger within yourself, then what happens? You're done, you're finished. So that is not right, that is not good. So this is how you protect yourself. So other people, it's their business and they will have to reap their karmic consequence. But in your heart, instead of saying, yes, yes, they deserve it, good, instead of that, you actually build up compassion. And then you can see how can you help them? How can you help yourself? How can you improve this situation? So everybody is going to do a bit better later. Yeah. So this is really important to understand this. And I was giving some, I think last year, a talk to a Buddhist group in Poland. And the topic was about forgiving difficult people, very related to this. So this was exactly the topic. And of course, I was talking about this non-self and not having free will. Our will is not really free. We have a choice, but our choice is conditioned. So that was quite confronting because they were quite new Buddhists. And free will is so ingrained, especially in the Western society as well. And if you are not exposed to Buddhism, we feel an agency inside of us. Even if you're Buddhist, even if you know teaching, we still feel it, isn't it? Like, we feel that. So therefore, it was quite challenging. So the person who was doing the translation sent me a long email afterwards with many, many questions, because free will, whether we have one or not, is quite a challenging one. So instead of spending a lot of time trying to answer all the questions, I suggested that we have a discussion. And then it so happened to be the time that I was having the discussion, Ajahn Brahmali was here. So I dragged him into the discussion. So if you are interested in a very comprehensive discussion, maybe somebody can put that talk into the WhatsApp group, or you can watch that in the BSWA channel. If you Google Free Will, Karunika and Brahmali, you will get that talk. I recommend that because this is important for us to understand about all these wrong views about free will, misconceptions about these things, whether it is fatalism, whether it is determinism, or, do we have? So it doesn't mean that we haven't got a choice at all in the sense, because otherwise enlightenment is also not possible, right? If everything is just conditioned and we are only driven by the condition alone, it's hard to, because we have multiple conditioning from many, many lifetimes. So this is where in the Buddhist path, mindfulness has a very major role. So when we have mindfulness, we can choose. So that is the time, if you want to call you have free will, it's not really free, it's conditioned, but mindfulness helps you to bias towards the skillful way. But if you haven't got mindfulness, it is really like fatal in a way. That's how you see it. It's like things just happen because the momentums are there. Nobody can intervene because it's so powerful. But you can see, even in your own life, how you have been before you came into the path, before you came into the understanding of these things, how your life was running, in a kind of way that almost predictable. You can see some people's life, some people who are not practicing, who are not having established mindfulness, you can see, you can almost predict where they're going to head, right? You can see this, and you can see how when you have mindfulness, you can guide yourself. So it is really, really important. So establishing mindfulness. So again, to remind people, and I can see some people who are quite new to Buddhism also in the Zoom group. So therefore, for the benefit of all of us and to remind ourselves, what is the mindfulness I'm talking about here? This is the mindfulness. The Pali word is Sati Sampajanya. I bring this up often in Dhamma talks because this is very critical in our practice, and that is mindfulness and clear comprehension. And what is that? That is having awareness of what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And how are you doing that? So this is really important. So when you do that, you can see whether your actions by body, speech, or even the way you're thinking, is it harmful and hurtful for myself? Or is it harmful and hurtful for another? So this is that mindfulness, because when that is not there, we are mindlessly just driven by habits, things that taken up. Can you relate to that? Yeah, so this is why. So it's really, really important. So once we have that degree of mindfulness, to have awareness of what are you doing? How are you speaking? What are you thinking about? And why are you doing these things? Why are you saying these things? Why are you thinking about these things? And how are you doing these things? So important, right? Because often we just talk aimlessly. Worse than that, we just think completely unrestrained because we feel that nobody knows what I'm thinking, so I can think what I want. But be careful. There are people who can read minds, but more than that, there are also other beings like angels and devas are also there in the Buddhist cosmology too. They can get very upset with you, or if you're doing good things, they can become your friend. So, it's not as if, maybe other people can't, but it is not helpful. But more than that, it's not because of other people seeing, it's for your own benefit. Yeah, that you need to guard your mind. This is the most important thing, because what we think about is what breaks into speech and actions later on. So guarding our mind is really, really important. So this is where we can take care of ourselves. So we can only do our side, yeah. Other people, what they do, we can't do much about it. So whatever they do that is harmful, hurtful, all we can do is our response to that, we can take care of it, because this is where our problem is. Day to day we are constantly met with people, met with situations that are difficult, that are not going the way we like. So instead of having that agitation, irritation, ill will, negativity, or even trying to take revenge or whatever, instead you have established your mindfulness to see, how am I going to receive what's in front of me? How am I going to hold it in my heart while I'm with that experience? How am I going to respond to it? Important, right? Without mindfulness, you can't do this. Impulsively, you will act. Because sometimes, if you have no mindfulness, impulsively, our mouth it feels like a life of its own and respond in unskillful way, hurtful and harmful ways that we regret later on. Do actions impulsively that are hurtful and harmful. And the most harm is to oneself, because whatever unskillful thing we did, we have to reap the karmic consequence. So instead, if we are motivated to, if we are inspired to establish that degree of mindfulness, to keep checking with ourselves, what am I doing? How am I doing? Why am I doing? Is this beneficial? Is this harmful to myself and others? Constantly do that, and you're doing much on the spiritual path. Actually, a lot of our work is done here. It is when we can't take care of this, because this is all to do with our sila, our virtue, right? So it is when we can't take care of this, then when we sit to meditate, can we meditate? No, because then regrets and remorse will come whether you like it or not, even though there is no place in the Buddhist teachings for regrets and remorse. They will come because you feel that you haven't lived your life well, you haven't done the right thing, or you haven't thought the right thought. Yeah. So therefore, guarding ourselves, this is where sense restraint come in. So the most important of all of the sense restraint is the restraint of the mind, right? Because whatever you see, the restraint happens in the mind. Whatever you hear, the restraint happens in your mind. Whatever your taste, you feel, what you think about, restraint happens in the mind. It is when we are not restrained, that is when you don't have mindfulness, that we lose everything. And then you have to reap the consequences of those actions of our own. So therefore, it is really important to understand. So this is a very, very important place about karma, yeah, about our karma and other people's karma. Because this is why I said again, I'm saying, I'm repeating myself here, is that when we are, every wakeful moment, we are being presented by things. We receive the world through our eyes. We receive the world through our ears, through our tongue, through our body, through our mind, constantly. We can't even stop it. We can't block it. And the Buddhist path is not about blocking them all. It is about understanding these things and responding in a skillful way. So have awareness what you're receiving. Have awareness how you're holding it, how you're dealing with it as you are going through that process. Have awareness how are you going to respond. This is where you have some control to bias your mindfulness to help you in the skillful way. This is where enlightenment is possible. Otherwise, we are completely and utterly driven by our conditioning, and we just keep going on and on in samsara between heaven and hell, mostly hell, I think, because most of our defilements push us towards that side. Yeah. So it's very hard. But when we see this happening in other people, especially those difficult people, the people who have done difficult things for you, then you actually really feel, feel that uh, compassion coming up, because they don't know or they can't practice, they're not there yet, and therefore they're doing all these difficult things which burns them first. Yeah, because whatever unskillful thing, it's like picking up a coal to throw at somebody else, but you burn your hand first. So this is how it is. So those people who did these difficult things, even before their karma gets them, the first thing is just the very act itself is unpleasant, isn't it? When we even snap back at somebody, if your tone of voice is a bit sarcastic, not even shouting and screaming and yelling, but even, a little bit, it doesn't feel good. No, straight away, it doesn't feel good yourself. So that's that instant karma of that action that we are reaping already. So the person's already reaping that as well. So once we have that awareness, actually throughout the day, our heart actually grows in compassion. We can't avoid it, yeah, because we're constantly seeing ourselves and other people. Because we have to allow ourselves as well. We are not fully enlightened yet. We are not completely perfect. So we will do stupid things, unskillful things. We can't help it. But it is important that we forgive ourselves. We learn from our mistakes and we try better for next time. This is the important part. So this is all parts of the mindfulness. This is all parts of reconditioning ourselves, because we are driven by some past conditioning that is unskillful, but with mindfulness and right view and with the teachings of the Buddha, we can recondition ourselves slowly, slowly. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. Mistakes will happen as long as you have that attitude of learning from it. Then life is okay, your path is okay, and your practice is going to be well. And you're going to grow in compassion instead of that ill will, negativity, or wishing harm at the world, which I think isn't helpful for any one of us. So that's what I have to say on this topic. So I open now for any questions, both for people in person here, and you can unmute for the people who are on the Zoom room and ask any questions, comments, feedbacks, agreements, disagreements. Yes, Venerable.
Ajahn Karunika, first of all, I want to say sadhu to a most brilliant talk. And I just chant the formula and you please say Asta, because it's very rare to have such a special nun and also having understood and actually showing the essentials, especially for lay people, for a good life and for a remorse-free life, and also it's absolutely essential for progress on the path. It's not wishful thinking. So anyway, Handanang Satukarang Dhamma Se Sadhu 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 Anumodami.
So one of the questions is how to maintain constant mindfulness. Yeah. So yes, that is quite tough, but it comes with practice. So the Buddha saying is bhavana bahulikata. So bhavana means cultivation of the mind. Bahulikata means you do it again and again and again. So mindfulness, what is the nutriment? So mindfulness also has a nutriment. All of these things has a nutriment. So the nutriment for mindfulness is yoniso manasikara. That means wise attention. So you train yourself again and again. You tell yourself what's good, what's bad, what's skillful, what's not, and bring up the Dhamma teachings into your mind. And also make a habit. It takes a while at the beginning. So you have to maybe even put a note. The other day, Michael was saying you can put a chime. That was about smiling, right? So it is also mindfulness to smile during the last talk, because we were talking about how to practice when you are depressed. So you have put a chime, and when the chime goes, you smile. If you can't smile, you fake a smile. But you can also put a mindfulness chime, and every time when the chime goes in the beginning, you just stop and see, how is my mind? What am I doing? What am I thinking? What kind of mind state is here, and why? So you can do. So once you do that, it's actually self-perpetuating. After a while, it becomes a habit. So that's how it is. It's not by like really paying attention and focusing. That's not really mindfulness. Yeah, that's actually being stressed. And that actually drains mindfulness, because there's too much pressure, too much willpower. Mindfulness does not come from willpower. That's the kind of mindfulness that you might need if you're in the war zone and you're a pilot. You have to really, then you do have to have that kind of very willed kind of mindfulness. But you can only sustain it for a short period of time. So that long-lasting, stable mindfulness grow very slowly. So be patient, yeah? But slowly but steadily, if you do the right work, which is giving right attention, bringing up the teachings, reminding yourself, and making these little habits, and they become closer and closer. So before the chime goes, you'll think about your mind 3 times more. So, and it becomes second nature that you'll be checking back on your mind and remembering the teachings. So it's about applying yourself, and the mindfulness comes in. But the nutriment for mindfulness is yoniso manasikara, wise attention. But of course, stillness, when you become still, also the mindfulness grows. So that's another level of mindfulness. But for day-to-day activity, this is how you start. And then when you have mindfulness, because you've been good, your mind is in a good state, it has been restrained, you can meditate well. And when you become still, the mindfulness goes to another level. When it's at another level, when you are peaceful, then you can actually tell very clear instructions. Then it actually works. So when you're peaceful, you tell your mind, I will be more mindful. I will be paying more attention. I'll be more careful. I will be more restrained. Whatever you need to do, like you find out what are your weaknesses, how you want to change them. You give small instructions to your mind at a time when you're peaceful. After meditation, when the mind is peaceful, mindfulness is high. That helps you. So it's between. So it's not, unless you are a fully enlightened being, mindfulness will not be constant. So it is only when you're a stream winner, it is called an indriya. It is a faculty. For anybody who's not even at the first level of enlightenment, it is not established. So we will lose it. Yeah. But even a stream winner, even it is as established, it's not constant. That's why even a stream winner can break precept sometimes, but they will never hide it. Yeah. So mindfulness can be lost even at a stream winner. So don't put pressure on maintaining it high. But how do you know whether you're mindful or not? I told this last time. How do you know? Yes?
Joy.
Joy. Yes, thank you. Joy, yeah? It's a good indicator. If you have good mindfulness, you have joy in your mind. Because you have already looked after yourself, there is energy in your mind, and it's a very good indicator. Not the kind that we think. Because when we think mindfulness, we think we have to remember everything, do everything, slow. That's not really, that's controlling. That's not mindfulness. Mindfulness is a very different thing. It's very expansive. It's very broad. It has a power on its own. It's really interesting to see it kicking in. Yes, Sati Sampajanya, once it starts to grow, once it's established inside of you, it's really like that's the Buddha's simile, is mindfulness is like a supervisor, but a very kind, gentle, wise supervisor, not like us. At work, not a controlling freak, arrogant, stubborn, terrible supervisor. It's our very well trained mindfulness. The Buddhist mindfulness is kind, gentle, and wise. And it comes and tells you, oh, be careful. Don't do this. This is not the way to do it. Remember, you want to do this differently. Remember, it's really beautiful. Yeah, it actually protects you. Mindfulness is a protector. Yeah. It is really scary to live in the world without mindfulness. That's what we spoke about during the whole talk, how we get into trouble, even very big trouble. Without you know it, you can fall into some really, really deep, heavy karma. We have the potential. Yeah, the defilements are there. At an unmindful moment, we can do it, and they're done. So very scary. So actually, we have to be very diligent. This is being diligent. This is doing the work, The Buddha's last words, who remember that? Vaya Dhamma Sankara Apamadena Sampade Tabba. All the conditioned phenomena are constantly changing. Be diligent, do your work. And people wonder, what is this work? I don't have time to be meditating. I don't have time to go to retreats. And you feel like your work is all of those big things. No, if you are able to establish a bit of mindfulness, you're already being diligent. You're doing a lot of the work. This is what the Buddha asked us to do. So you can be happy. So in a busy life, in a crazy, mad household, you can still practice really well. In fact, it's a good ground, good place to practice. You can't afford to be mindless in a situation like that. So thank you for that question.
Yeah. And also I would add, just to be grateful. Gratefulness brings a lot of joy, because we have got the recipe to actually make something out of our life and actually transcend. How many people are floating around, have the good idea, but haven't got the unique instructions from the Lord Buddha? We have made it so far, so let's be serious for the rest of our life and of our years, because when you can see outside, the world is not changing rapidly and it's becoming more and more complex to practice properly. So now is the time, and that when we have some beautiful teachings and coming together and support each other, please let's not forget it. It's not saying that overnight you're now very much, I don't do anything, but have the clear comprehension and see that it is still possible now to make advancement. How do we know in so many years' time the teachings will be gone, there won't be many good teachers around, and on and on and on. Everything will be more diluted, you have psychotherapy. I mean, it's had its place, but it is not actually liberation. Work out your salvation with diligence from the Lord Buddha here.
Did the people on Zoom hear what Venerable Nirodha was saying? You could hear?
Yes.
Okay, good. Excellent. So there was another question on the Zoom room. Somebody was asking. Who was that?
That was me, Ayya.
Rumi, please ask your question.
So the opposite of revenge, if someone does something wrong, you mentioned before, can have a fatalistic view, thinking, oh, this is my karma, that's why the person is angry or whatever. And like, not just about anger, about anything. Have a very fatalistic view. How do you change that?
Yeah, that's actually wrong view,
Mm.
Wrong view, because that's actually Hinduism. Because in Hindu religion too, there is karma, but this is how karma is understood in the sense that it is that everything that happens to you is because of your karma.
Mm.
And a lot of the Buddhists have this view. Do you have this view?
I don't.
Yeah, but it is
I
quite common, yeah? Or you probably had in the past.
I don't, but I hear it quite often,
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And I try to say that everything does not happen because of karma, because there's 5 types: Utu niyama, bija niyama, dhamma niyama, kamma niyama.
Yeah.
But if you can give a simple explanation, which you can give to the people.
Yeah. So it is all right from time to time, if you can see it, to also have that idea, maybe something is happening because also of your karma. It's true to some degree, and that is a skillful means to bring up equanimity. But it's not the only thing. Yeah. So it's no harm in thinking like that as well. But the thing is, where people go wrong is people allow abuse to take place and continue, because they think, oh, this is my karma and I deserve this and I should live through this and suffer, and that's how I'm going to pay it off. This is not the Buddha's view. This is not the Buddha's instruction. This is where we have to be careful, because too often you hear too many people, too many Buddhists do this to themselves. They think, oh, I'm having a really hard, difficult, especially with your family or with at work, and this is my karma, and the only way that I'm going to overcome it is by suffering. This is where it is important. So if you have the understanding, because to some degree, if it is with your family and things like that, it is part of your karma. So that understanding can help you to build up equanimity, but that doesn't mean that you ever pay off karma by suffering. That's very important. There are many, many suttas I can quote. Karajakayaniya Sutta, one of them, in Anguttara Nikaya 10, I think. So there are many suttas where the Buddha explains karma is not paid back like that, because we don't know how much karma we have. Nobody knows how much karma we have, right? So we have many, many karma, and karma is never ended in that way. Karma is ended through wisdom, through understanding, and by ending the samsara. That is the time the karma is ended, in the sense, because you have no future rebirth. So the karma that gets ended is your future karma, because your rebirth is ended. But whatever is there for this life will still carry on Even if you're fully enlightened, still some of those effects will play out because the momentum has already started, because you're here already. What karma you end as when you become fully enlightened is the karma of your future birth, because your birth has ended. That's all. So it's very important to have a very good understanding. And karma is also not eye for an eye. Hundreds of eye for an eye. You do one thing, the karmic consequence is multiple. Why? Because every time you remember it, every time you recall it, every time it's again built up in your mind. This applies for both good and bad, so don't worry too much because you do plenty good. So your good karma is also multiple. Bad karma is also multiple, but karma is very complex as well. Karma is a subject of a Buddha. So it's not so straightforward to understand karma, because we have so much karma, in the sense, so many things that we have done. So therefore, how it's going to fruit is decided by multiple causes and conditions. So it's really important that you don't really have that kind of, strong thing, and especially that you don't allow yourself to sort of get abused by other people or live through difficulty without taking any action. Karma is not about that. So very important thing again about this karma. How do you know whether it's good or bad? Yeah, the thing is, so if you have a 200 ml glass and there's 100 mils of water, would you say the glass is half full or the glass is half empty? So there's a way that you can look at it, right? So if you are skillful, you can use anything to your own benefit. Yeah. So there is no real good or bad. If somebody has that much wisdom, that much right view, you can make use of your whatever that you have done, even the worst kind of things that you have done. And as you're reaping the results of this bad karma, as you're suffering, as you're going through hardships, if you have right attitude, a good attitude towards it, you can make the best use of that opportunity instead of saying, oh, my bad karma, I have to suffer, I have to go through all of these things and I have to pay it off. That's wrong. So no paying off in that sense. It is by understanding it and respond to it. So it's again, that's why I mentioned, how do you receive it? How do you hold it? How do you respond to it? Because what you receive is your mostly the results of your karma is what you are receiving. Not only your karma, it's not today is a sunny day, not because of my good karma. Or I have maybe a cold, it's not because of my karma. Or a tsunami came, not because of my karma. So they are environmental things. But there are also things that come our way because of our karma. So whether it is because of our karma or because of our nature or because of any other thing, it doesn't matter. But we will create karma as a result of those things. So that is where we have to be careful. Did that answer your question, Rumi?
Yes, yeah, it did. Sadhu, sadhu.
All right. Thank you for that really good question.